I'm going to teach you a few simple newspaper design rules that will make your publication look a lot better. I've been a newspaper advisor for over 10 years, and it took me a long time to learn these rules, but I'm hoping that by watching this video, you'll learn them a lot quicker than I did. First, I must insist that you go out and buy the Newspaper Designer's Handbook by Tim Harrower. In my journalism classroom, we call this the Bible. My students often take the book with them to their computer when they are working on the layout of a page. They especially like it for photo essays. You can find all the tips I'm about to give you in this book. Tim Harrower also has a website, www.timharrower.com, which provides you with many of the tips from the book, but also reflects the new world of web design. I'm going to show you several examples from my newspaper, The Oarsman, and High Tide, the newspaper from Redondo Beach High School. Our newspaper is a tabloid, and High Tide is a broadsheet, like the LA Times. I admit that High Tide is probably a better paper than the one of my students, and that's because the advisor, my friend Mitch Ziegler, has a lot more years of experience than I do. And also, his school district is a lot more affluent than Los Angeles Unified, and as a result, has a lot more resources. First, headlines. The most important rules are this. The largest headlines in terms of font size go at the top of the page and get smaller as they go down. Don't make the font size of a headline bigger just to fill a specific space. Use an active voice in your headline, which means make sure it has a verb. They should be accurate and instantly understandable. The headline is usually what draws the reader into a story, a decision that is made in a split second, so make sure your headline gives the reader enough information about the story. Too often, headlines in student newspapers are simply labels. Subheads and decks are a good way to give the reader more information about the story, especially if you didn't have room to give enough info in the headline. They're also a good way to fill up more space. Harrower has a section in his book called Making Stories Fit. These are possibly the most important pages in the book, from my perspective. What do you do if your story is too short? Some things Harrower suggests: add a pull quote, which is also called a lift-out quote, or add a house ad, which is a box you create of whatever size you want in which you promote something about your newspaper, or add a mugshot. Some other quick tidbits. Always put a frame around your photos. A half-point or one-point frame is sufficient. Use as many photos as possible. Readers will be drawn to stories with art, and studies show they read photo captions even more than headlines. I heard Tim Harrower speak this past April at the National High School Journalism Convention in Portland, Oregon. He talked about a significant new trend in newspaper design and web design. It's called chunking. At least that's what he calls it. The idea behind chunking is to break things up into small pieces, using subheads and lots of paragraphs. I think that the desire for this new design style is the fact that people are more into multitasking, looking at more things in a shorter amount of time, and also have less time for leisurely reading of long articles. Look at your favorite magazine. It's likely to include lots of chunking.